10 Things the Dead Want You to Know, according to Edgar Cayce. What if those you've lost could send you just one message? Not through a medium, not through a dream you half remember, but a clear, undeniable transmission from the other side of the veil. What would they say? For over 40 years, a man named Edgar Cayce became something extraordinary. Not a spiritualist, not a charlatan performing seances in darkened rooms. He was something far more mysterious, a bridge between worlds. In a deep trance state, eyes closed, voice distant, he delivered over 14,000 readings. And in those readings, a pattern emerged. The dead were speaking, not in riddles, not in warnings designed to frighten or manipulate. They spoke in reassurances, in corrections, in urgent, compassionate truths meant to change how you live and how you grieve. These weren't abstract platitudes about eternal rest or pearly gates. These were specific, detailed accounts of what happens after the final breath, where consciousness goes, what the departed experience, and most importantly, what they desperately want you to know while you're still here. Because here's what Cayce discovered. Everything you fear about death might be exactly backwards. The darkness you imagine, they say it's light. The silence you dread, they describe it as communion. The ending you mourn, they call it a beginning. This isn't about comforting lies. This is about accurate information from the other side. Information that changes everything. How you love, how you forgive, how you spend your remaining days on earth. 10 messages, 10 truths. The departed wish they could whisper in your ear. 10 corrections to the story your grief has been telling you. And the first thing they want you to know might be the hardest to accept. Edgar Cayce didn't set out to become a telephone line between worlds. He was a photographer in Kentucky, a Sunday school teacher, a man with a strange gift he didn't fully understand, the ability to enter a self-induced trance and access information that shouldn't have been accessible. Medical diagnoses for people he'd never met, historical details about civilizations long forgotten, and eventually, testimony from those who had crossed the threshold of death. But Cayce never channeled individual spirits the way mediums claim to. He didn't conjure the ghost of your grandmother or produce ectoplasm in dimly lit parlors. His gift was different, more vast. He accessed what he called the Akashic Records, a kind of cosmic library where every soul's journey is written, every life, every death, every lesson learned and lesson missed. When people came to him asking about deceased loved ones, Cayce would lie down, close his eyes, and enter that deep trance. His voice would change, become measured, formal, oddly distant, and he would describe where that soul was now, what state of consciousness they occupied, what they were learning, what messages they wished to send back. What made it credible wasn't showmanship, it was specificity. He would provide details, names, dates, descriptions of events that he couldn't have known, details that were later verified. He did this thousands of times, never seeking publicity, never exploiting grief for profit. He simply reported what he saw, and across those thousands of readings, a cosmology emerged, a consistent, detailed map of the afterlife. Not heaven and hell in the traditional sense, but planes of consciousness, levels of learning, a continuation of the soul's education in a different classroom. Most importantly, he discovered something unexpected. The dead were remarkably consistent in what they wished they'd known while alive. The same themes appeared again and again, the same regrets, the same revelations, the same urgent desire to correct the misunderstandings of those still in physical form. Nothing they revealed was meant to induce guilt. Everything was offered with compassion, with the clarity that comes from seeing the larger design, with the hope that you, still alive, still choosing, still growing, might hear what they couldn't while they walked the earth. 10 truths emerged from those thousands of conversations. 10 messages that the departed, freed from the illusions of physical existence, wanted desperately to communicate. And the first one challenges everything your grief has been telling you. The first message is the most urgent, the most misunderstood, the one that, if you could truly absorb it, would transform your grief from a wound into a doorway. They want you to know, we haven't left. We've only changed location. In Cayce's readings, the deceased described death not as cessation, but as relocation, like moving to another country while staying in touch, like graduating to another school while remaining part of the same soul family. The relationship hasn't ended, it's transformed. They are not gone. They are not in some unreachable void. They are not sleeping in the ground, consciousness extinguished like a candle flame. They are aware, present, closer than you imagine. The veil between worlds, Cayce explained, is thin, translucent, permeable. They attend significant moments in your life, not as ghosts haunting the halls, but as loving presences bearing witness. Your wedding, the birth of your child, the moment you finally overcome the fear they watched you struggle with. They are there, not always. They have their own journey, their own curriculum in the afterlife, but they remain connected to you in ways that transcend physical proximity. So why can't you feel them? Not because they're absent, but because you're not attuned, like a radio dial sitting between stations, catching only static. The signal is broadcasting. You're simply not tuned to the right frequency. Cayce's readings provided evidence of this. Deceased individuals accurately describing events happening in the lives of their loved ones after they had died. A father knowing his daughter, changed careers, a wife aware that her husband had finally forgiven himself. Details they couldn't have known unless consciousness truly persists and remains connected. Here's the reframe your grief needs. Your aching isn't their absence. It's your adjustment to a new form of relationship. You're learning a new language together, one without words or touch, one made of signs and synchronicities and sudden memories that arrive at exactly the right moment, one made of dreams that feel different from regular dreams, clearer, more vivid, leaving you with a sense of visitation rather than imagination. They haven't abandoned you. You're simply learning how to hear them in a different frequency. This is the labor of grief, not the pain of permanent separation, but the work of birthing a new kind of love, one that transcends physical presence, one that operates in dimensions beyond the 5 senses. They want you to know the love didn't die. It's more alive than ever. You're just learning how to feel it without a body to hold. But here's what surprised Cayce about what the departed communicate next. They don't want your grief. They want something else entirely. This is the difficult truth, the one that might make you defensive, the one you need to hear with compassion, not guilt. Excessive, inconsolable grief, the kind that becomes identity, that refuses comfort, that clings to sorrow as a way of proving love, creates an energetic tether, a chain that binds the departed to earthly vibrations when they need to ascend. Cayce explained it as a kind of physics, not theology, not judgment, physics. Emotional energy is real, it has weight, it has frequency, and concentrated sorrow, when it becomes chronic and all-consuming, creates drag on the soul trying to move into higher planes of learning. The dead must lighten to ascend. They must release the dense vibrations of physical existence, fear, anger, attachment, to access the finer frequencies of the spiritual dimensions. But intense grief from those they love pulls them back, like gravity. They experience your grief not as anger or resentment. They understand it. They honor the love it represents. But they feel a longing, a wish that you could release them so they can progress. So you can progress. Because this tether binds you both. The more you cling, the more you delay both your healing and their evolution. This isn't about denying your grief. Initial grief is natural, necessary, sacred. It's the holy expression of love meeting loss. Cry, rage, ache, honor what was. The departed don't ask you to skip this. What becomes problematic is prolonged identification with grief. When months become years and years become decades, and your identity becomes the person whose mother, child, spouse died. When you build an altar to sorrow and tend it daily. When you refuse all comfort because releasing the pain feels like betraying the love. That's when the tether tightens. Here's what they want instead. Remembrance with joy, not sorrow. Celebration of the love, not fixation on the loss. They want you to tell stories about them and laugh, to see their photo and smile instead of weep, to honor their birthday not with flowers on a grave, but with living in a way that embodies what they taught you. They're not asking you to stop loving them. They're asking you to love them differently. In Cayce's readings, souls in the afterlife often express this gently. With infinite patience. They understood why you grieve, but they also saw what you couldn't, that your sorrow was creating suffering for both of you. Here's the practice they're asking for. When you feel overwhelming grief rising, pause. Ask yourself, am I honoring them right now or holding them hostage? Are you remembering them or are you refusing to let them go? There's a profound difference. One is love. The other is fear disguised as love, and they can feel the difference from where they are. So what are they doing while you mourn? Something that will change how you see death forever. Death is not rest. Death is not stasis. Death is not lying in peaceful slumber in some celestial waiting room until you arrive. Death is the continuation of learning in a different classroom. This was one of Cayce's most consistent revelations. The afterlife is active, purposeful, structured. The deceased don't simply bask in eternal light. They attend what Cayce called schools. They work with guides and teachers. They review the lessons of the life just lived. They prepare for the next steps in their soul's evolution. The structure isn't arbitrary. Souls gravitate toward planes of existence that match their level of consciousness, not as punishment or reward, but as natural law, like water finding its level. Higher consciousness occupies higher planes. Dense consciousness remains in denser realms until it's ready to ascend. Think of it not as heaven and hell, but as universities of the soul, kindergarten through graduate school. Each soul learns at the level they're ready for. What are they learning? How to love more purely, how to understand the patterns they missed in life, how to forgive themselves and others, how to release the illusions that kept them small, how to expand their capacity for compassion, wisdom, service. They're studying the life they just lived with total honesty, seeing where they succeeded and where they fell short. Not with shame, but with the curiosity of a student reviewing a test to understand the mistakes. And they're preparing. Some are preparing to reincarnate, to return to physical form with new lessons to learn. Others are preparing to ascend, to graduate into higher service, becoming guides and teachers for other souls. Why does this matter to you? Because they're not waiting in some static paradise for you to join them. They're growing, evolving, becoming more of who they truly are. Your loved one isn't lonely. They're not bored. They're not sitting in a cloud, wishing they could come back. They're engaged, purposeful, often more fulfilled than they were in physical life, because now they can see the meaning in everything. Cayce described specific activities: deceased souls counseling other newly arrived souls, helping them adjust to the afterlife, serving as guides for those still on earth who are open to their influence, attending halls of learning where higher teachings are transmitted, planning their next incarnation with care and intention, choosing the exact circumstances that will provide the lessons they need. This isn't wishful thinking. This was reported consistently across thousands of readings. Different souls, different circumstances, same cosmology. But here's what will surprise you most. There's one thing they're doing that directly involves you, and most people have no idea it's happening. Many of your deceased loved ones have volunteered to serve as part of your spiritual support team. Not all. Some souls need to focus entirely on their own healing and learning. Some move quickly into reincarnation. Some ascend to levels where they no longer interact with the physical plane. But many choose to stay close, to watch over you, to offer guidance when you're open to receiving it. In Cayce's framework, there's a hierarchy of spiritual support: ascended masters, angels, beings of pure light who have graduated beyond the need for physical incarnation. These higher guides work with everyone, whether you're aware of them or not. But deceased loved ones occupy a special role. They know you intimately. They understand your wounds, your fears, your potential. They remember being human with all its challenges and temptations, so they can guide you with a kind of empathy that higher beings, for all their wisdom, may not possess. Here's how it works. They can't interfere with your free will. That's sacred, inviolable. They can't make your decisions or force you onto a particular path, but they can send signs, nudges, synchronicities that feel too precise to be coincidence. They can visit your dreams with messages, not the confused, symbolic dreams of your subconscious, but clear visitation dreams where they appear solid, healthy, delivering specific guidance or comfort. They can arrange meetings, place people in your path, influence circumstances in subtle ways that honor your sovereignty while steering you toward opportunities for growth. Cayce's readings provided countless examples. A deceased mother who arranged a chance meeting between her living daughter and the man who would become her husband. A father who sent repeated signs that steered his son away from a dangerous business partnership. A grandmother whose presence was felt so strongly at a crucial moment that it prevented a suicide. How do you recognize their guidance? Sudden, intense memories of them at crucial decision points, like they've stepped into your consciousness to remind you of something they used to say, something you needed to hear right now. Songs that play at impossible moments, their favorite song on the radio just as you're asking for a sign. Once might be coincidence, but when it happens repeatedly, with eerie timing, pay attention. Objects that appear, a feather, a coin, a photograph you haven't seen in years suddenly falling from a shelf. Small physical reminders that they're near, and perhaps most powerfully, gut feelings that arrive in their voice, not audibly, but a sense of their presence, their energy, their loving influence on your intuition. When you suddenly know what they would say, when you feel their approval or their caution, when their essence seems to merge with your inner knowing. That's not imagination, that's attunement. They guide, but they never control. They suggest, but they never demand. Your free will is sacred, and they honor it absolutely. But if you're listening, if you're open, receptive, willing to believe that death didn't sever the bond, you'll start noticing their influence everywhere. That feeling that they're still with you, you're not imagining it, they are. But they can't guide you effectively if you're holding on to one specific illusion. Upon death, something extraordinary happens. The deceased undergo an immediate life review, not judgment imposed by an external God with a ledger of sins, but self-evaluation in the presence of unconditional love. Cayce described it as standing before a mirror that reflects total truth. Every choice, every impact, every moment of love and every moment of fear. Nothing hidden, nothing justified, just clarity. They see their entire life, not through their own limited perception, but through the eyes of everyone they encountered. Every person they hurt, they experience that hurt as if they were the recipient. not as punishment but as teaching, so they understand viscerally the impact of their actions. Every person they loved, they feel that love received. They see the ripples it created, the way one kind word changed a trajectory, the way their presence made someone feel less alone. It's both devastating and liberating. Devastating because self-deception evaporates. The lies they told themselves in life, that the affair didn't really hurt anyone, that their anger was justified, that their absence didn't matter, all dissolve under the weight of truth. Liberating because they also see the good they did, the small kindnesses they forgot about, the moments of courage they dismissed as insignificant, the love they gave that mattered more than they ever knew. Cayce's readings consistently revealed that souls are often surprised by their positive impact. They thought they failed. They thought they weren't enough. But from the other side, they see how their love landed, how it sustained someone through darkness, how it altered the course of another soul's journey. What does this mean for you? That person who hurt you, they now know what they did. They carry that knowledge. They've experienced your pain as their own. They can't call you and apologize. They can't undo what was done. But they can send you energetic apologies, waves of remorse, of wish for healing, of hope that you'll release the burden of what they inflicted. And here's the profound part. Your forgiveness frees you more than it frees them. They're already awake to their failings. They're already in the process of healing and growth. Your forgiveness doesn't change their journey, it changes yours. It releases the hook embedded in your heart. It transforms you from victim to sovereign soul. It completes the karmic loop that kept you bound to them in pain. Forgiveness isn't saying what they did was acceptable. It's saying, I refuse to carry this anymore. I release you. I release me. The flip side is equally important. If you hurt someone who has since died, if you carry guilt or regret about what you said or didn't say, did or didn't do, know this. They see clearly now. They understand the fear or pain that drove your actions, and they forgive you. You can offer them an energetic apology. Speak it aloud. Write it in a letter you burn. Meditate and send the words into the space where they exist now. They'll receive it, and the release will be mutual. The person you're grieving is not the same confused soul who left. They've awakened. They've graduated into clarity. And what they see about their life leads to a shocking realization about yours. From the afterlife perspective, there's a stunning reversal. Being alive, the state you take for granted, the daily grind of work and worry and mundane tasks, is the extraordinary condition, the rare opportunity, the treasure that's easy to squander. In Cayce's readings, the deceased express something like regret, not the heavy, shameful regret of the living, but a clear-eyed wish, a longing. If only they'd understood, while incarnate, the sheer weight of earthly life, because every moment alive is a chance to make choices that shape eternity. Every conversation is an audition for who you're becoming. Every kindness is a brick in the architecture of your eternal self. Every choice between fear and love is casting a vote for the soul you'll carry beyond the veil. From the other side, they see it so clearly. Life wasn't the obstacle between them and peace. Life was the opportunity, the singular chance to practice love in the densest, hardest classroom in the cosmos. And now that they're on the other side, they can't practice in the same way. They can learn, they can grow, but they can't take the same risks or make the same choices. Incarnation offers something unique, the ability to love imperfectly, to fail and try again, to transform suffering into wisdom while still in form. Here's what they wish they'd prioritized: love over achievement. Not because achievement is bad, but because it doesn't transfer. The promotion, the award, the bank account, it all stays behind. But the love, that's the only currency accepted. In the afterlife, presence over productivity, All those hours spent working late, chasing more, accumulating things. They see now how those hours could have been spent holding their child, sitting with their aging parent, being fully present with their partner. Courage over comfort. The risks they didn't take. The truth they didn't speak. The life they designed out of fear instead of love. From the other side, they wish they'd been braver. Forgiveness over righteousness. The grudges they held. The feuds they maintained. The refusal to bend even when love required it. All of it seems so small now, so painfully, tragically small. And here's what they wish they'd cared less about. Status. No one on the other side cares what title you held or how impressive your career was. Possessions, the house, the car, the carefully curated collection of things, all of it irrelevant. Petty conflicts, the argument with the neighbor, the family drama that consumed years, the political disagreements that fractured relationships. From the afterlife perspective, it's all noise, others' opinions. The years spent contorting themselves to meet others' expectations, to avoid judgment, to be accepted, wasted energy. The message is urgent. Don't wait until you're here to realize what mattered. We're telling you now, that argument you're holding on to, meaningless from here, release it. That risk you're afraid to take it. The regret of not trying far exceeds the pain of failure. That person you haven't forgiven, they won't be here forever, neither will you. Forgive them now. That love you haven't expressed, speak it, write it, show it. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. They're not judging your choices. They're hoping, desperately hoping, that you'll make different ones than they did, that you'll live awake, intentional, loving without hesitation. But there's one choice they don't regret, even when it caused immense pain. This is the difficult comfort, the truth that sounds like spiritual bypassing, but isn't. The reframe that honors pain while revealing its hidden architecture. From the other side, the deceased can see how their earthly suffering, the illness, the loss, the trauma, the betrayal, was part of their chosen curriculum. Cayce's cosmology is clear on this. Souls don't incarnate randomly. They choose. They select specific lifetimes, specific challenges, specific pain points because those challenges are precisely what their soul needs to grow. Like a student choosing a difficult course to accelerate learning. Like an athlete selecting the harder training regimen because it builds greater strength. This doesn't erase the pain's reality. Suffering in the moment is real, brutal, often seemingly meaningless. But from the expanded perspective of the afterlife, the meaning becomes visible. The chronic illness taught patience and surrender. The betrayal revealed where trust was misplaced and catalyzed boundaries. The loss cracked the heart open wider than it could have opened any other way. They want you to know, we're not traumatized anymore. We understand now. What felt like random cruelty was initiation. What looked like punishment was education. The pain wasn't inflicted by a capricious God. It was invited by our own soul, which knew exactly what we needed to evolve. This is especially important for those whose loved ones died young or tragically. Their souls completed what they came to do. The length of life doesn't determine its completeness. A soul can accomplish its purpose in 20 years, or in 2 years, or in 2 days. From the afterlife perspective, they succeeded. They learned what they came to learn. They taught what they came to teach. Often through the very circumstances of their death. Your loved one's suffering wasn't in vain. It was profound, painful, effective teaching for them and for everyone who witnessed it. Here's the paradox you're allowed to hold. You're allowed to wish they hadn't suffered, and you're also allowed to trust that their soul knew what it was doing. Both can be true. Your human grief and your spiritual trust can coexist. What they don't want is for you to be destroyed by the unfairness of their death. They don't want you to build an altar to injustice and bow before it daily. What they do want is for you to extract the lesson, the teaching embedded in their suffering, and live it on their behalf. Did their illness teach you that life is fragile? Then live urgently. Did their addiction reveal the cost of numbing pain? Then face yours. Did their death in service, military, medical, sacrificial, show you the power of selfless love? Then love selflessly. Their pain wasn't wasted, but it becomes wasted if you don't harvest the wisdom it produced. And here's what they want you to know about your pain, your challenges, your suffering. You didn't get unlucky. You made the same choice they did. You chose this, not from a place of masochism or ignorance, but from the expanded consciousness of your soul before incarnation. You chose this family, this body, this era, these challenges. Cayce's teachings on reincarnation are unambiguous. Souls select specific life conditions to balance karma, develop qualities, complete unfinished business. Nothing is random. Everything is designed. Before you incarnated, you looked at the curriculum available in this lifetime and said yes. To the difficult parent, you chose them. To learn boundaries, to develop forgiveness, to heal patterns from previous lifetimes. To the health challenge, you chose it. To cultivate patience, to develop compassion for others who suffer, to learn that you are not your body. To the heartbreak, you chose it. To crack your heart open wider than safety allows, to learn that love doesn't require reciprocation to be real. Why does this matter? Because if you chose this, then you're not a victim of random chaos. You're a student who enrolled in a challenging course. The circumstances of your life aren't happening to you. They're happening for you, designed by you, for your highest evolution. From the afterlife, the deceased can see this clearly. They can see the brilliance of your pre-birth planning, even when you can't see it from inside the maze. They watch you struggle and they want to whisper, "You chose this. You knew it would be hard. You chose it anyway because you're braver than you remember. This doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. Choice doesn't equal ease. You can choose a marathon and still find miles 20 through 26 excruciating. The choice doesn't make the difficulty disappear. It just changes your relationship to it. You're not being punished with a hard life. You're being educated with a rigorous curriculum. And from the other side, they want you to stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What am I learning? Why was I born into this family? What am I learning about love or boundaries or forgiveness? Why did I experience this loss? What am I learning about impermanence or resilience or faith? Why did this relationship fail? What am I learning about self-worth or compatibility or letting go?" The questions shift from victimhood to sovereignty, from suffering to meaning. They're not telling you to bypass your pain. Spiritual understanding doesn't erase human emotion. You're allowed to rage and weep and wish it were different. But underneath the pain, there's architecture, design, intention. Your soul knew what it was doing when it said yes to this life. And now, knowing you chose this life, the next question becomes obvious. This is the promise, the one that should dissolve the fear of permanent separation. According to Cayce, souls who genuinely loved each other in life will reunite. Not maybe. Not if you're good enough. Not if you pray hard enough. Inevitably. Guaranteed. Cosmically scheduled. Here's how it works. Souls don't incarnate alone. They travel in groups. Soul families, Cayce called them. These groups incarnate together across lifetimes, cycling through different relationships. In one lifetime, your mother might be your daughter. Your brother might be your spouse. Your best friend might be your parent. The roles change, but the souls remain connected. This means the person you're grieving, you've loved them before, in previous lifetimes, in different bodies, different circumstances, different configurations, and you'll love them again. When you meet again, whether in the afterlife or in another incarnation, there's instant recognition. a knowing that transcends logic, a feeling of, I've been looking for you. The bond you share exists outside time. It's woven into the fabric of your eternal selves. You can't actually lose each other. Even when death separates you temporarily, it's just that, temporary. A pause between chapters in a story that spans lifetimes. Right now, while you're alive and they're in the afterlife, they may already be planning their next incarnation, possibly timing it to overlap with yours. Again, choosing circumstances that will allow you to reconnect. You might meet them as a stranger who becomes a friend, or a colleague who becomes essential, or a child born into your life carrying the unmistakable essence of someone you've loved before. This isn't wishful thinking. This is soul law, according to Cayce's consistent testimony across thousands of readings. What they want you to release. The fear that death ended the relationship. It didn't. It transformed it. Right now, you're separated by the veil, but the veil is thin and getting thinner as human consciousness evolves. You're connected across dimensions, and one day, whether in the afterlife when you cross over, or in another lifetime when you both return, you'll be together again, fully, completely, with total recognition and joy. The reunion is already scheduled, it's guaranteed. So what does this mean for how you live now? It means you don't have to cling or wait or put your life on hold. It means you can live fully, love completely, and trust the design. The relationship didn't end, it's just in intermission. And when you reunite, you'll want to have grown. You'll want to be an even better match than you were last time. You'll want to bring stories of a life fully lived, lessons fully learned, love fully expressed. Live now, love now, trust the reunion, it's coming. But there's one more message, the culmination of all the others. The reason for every teaching, every insight, every truth they've tried to communicate. Every message distills to this. Every regret, every insight, every urgent whisper from the other side points to the same singular truth. Love is the only currency that transfers across the veil. In the Life Review, only 2 questions matter. Cayce reported this again and again. When souls stand before the mirror of truth, when they evaluate the life they just lived, only 2 questions are asked. How much did you love? How much did you learn? Everything else, the success, the beauty, the wealth, the status, the achievements you worked so hard to accumulate, is stage props, set dressing for the play of incarnation. None of it makes the journey. From the afterlife, they watch you strive and hustle and compete, and they want to say, you're spending so much energy on things that will evaporate the moment you cross over. The house doesn't matter. The career, irrelevant. The body you're so worried about, you'll leave it behind like an old coat. But the love, that comes with you. Every act of love, every choice to love when fear would have been easier, every expansion of your heart's capacity, that's the wealth that matters. Cayce's readings reveal 3 forms of love the departed emphasize. First, love for others, especially the hard to love, the difficult people, the ones who triggered you, challenged you, made you want to close your heart in self-protection. Loving them, not because they earned it, but because love is who you are. That's the graduate level curriculum. Second, love for self, without which you can't truly love others. Not the narcissistic conditional love that says, I'm worthy when I succeed, but the unconditional love that says, I'm worthy because I exist, because my soul is inherently valuable, because I'm a spark of the divine having a human experience. Third, love for the divine. Whatever you call it, God, source, the universe, consciousness, the love that recognizes you're part of something infinitely larger than yourself. The love that surrenders the illusion of separation and remembers you are held, guided, never alone. What the departed see clearly now, Every human is a soul on a journey. Every encounter is an opportunity to practice love. The clerk at the grocery store, a soul. The stranger on the bus, a soul. The person whose politics enrage you, a soul. All of you, playing different roles in the grand curriculum of Earth. All of you, learning love through the friction of being human. The regret they carry, if it can even be called regret from their place of clarity, is the times they chose fear over love, judgment over compassion, safety over vulnerability, when they withheld love because someone didn't deserve it, when they protected their heart instead of risking it, when they were right instead of kind. Their urgent plea, don't wait to love, not until the conditions are perfect, not until you're healed, not until they deserve it, not until you're sure they'll love you back. Love now, love messily, love imperfectly, love without guarantee. Because every day alive is another chance to increase your love capacity, and that's the only wealth you take with you. Imagine your life review, standing before that mirror of truth, seeing every moment, every choice, every relationship. What will matter? The argument you won, the deadline you met, the pound you lost, or the moment you chose kindness when cruelty was easier, the time you forgave when bitterness felt justified, the love you gave even when you were afraid. This is what the dead want you to know. The culmination of all 10 messages: you are eternal. Your relationships are eternal. The love you cultivate is eternal. Everything else is temporary, beautiful, meaningful in its way, but temporary. So how do you live with this knowledge? You know what they know now. The question is, what changes? Because information without application is entertainment. True understanding demands transformation. Here's how you integrate each message into your daily life. Message 1. We are not gone. Create rituals to feel their presence. Talk to them, out loud or silently. They hear you. Set a place for them at holiday dinners.